The Kosovo War, a terrible fight in southeastern Europe in the late 1990s, left the country in ruins. This fight, caused by deep disagreements between different groups of people, led to lots of destruction, people losing their homes, and many deaths. When the fighting finally stopped, Kosovo had a huge job ahead, rebuilding everything, bringing people back together, and creating some kind of peace and safety. Countries from around the world helped out, sending peacekeepers and aid to support Kosovo. But things were still dangerous. There were still tensions, organized crime, and not enough basic safety, making it hard to rebuild. Because things were so uncertain and unsafe, regular peacekeepers weren't enough. The world wanted to stop the fighting from starting again, so they looked for other ways to handle the many security problems. This is where private military contractors came in. These are companies you can hire for security. They became a controversial but more common sight in places trying to rebuild after a war. One of these companies, Blackwater, became very important and controversial in helping Kosovo after the war. Blackwater, a private military company from the United States, came to Kosovo after the war to provide security. Known for its well-trained people and how well it worked, Blackwater quickly became important, filling in where security was lacking. Blackwater did a lot of different things, from protecting important people to training local police. Their workers, often former soldiers with lots of fighting experience, were sent all over Kosovo to keep things peaceful and make sure everyone was safe, both international helpers and the people of Kosovo. One of Blackwater's main jobs was protecting important people. Because things were still dangerous, diplomats, aid workers, and officials needed constant protection. Blackwater escorted their vehicles, guarded them personally, and kept their buildings safe. This let these international groups do their jobs helping Kosovo rebuild. Besides protecting people, Blackwater also helped Kosovo build its own security forces. They knew that Kosovo needed its own police to stay safe in the long run, so Blackwater trained and mentored the Kosovo Police Service, or KPS. Blackwater taught the KPS officers important skills for keeping peace after a war. They taught them about controlling crowds, investigating crimes, stopping terrorism, and respecting human rights. The goal was to make the KPS professional and better at protecting the people of Kosovo. Blackwater was also good at gathering information. Their people, who knew a lot about intelligence, worked to find possible threats, watch criminal activity, and give helpful information to their clients and international partners. This information helped stop violence, break up criminal gangs, and make Kosovo safer so it could rebuild and recover. Section 4. Shadows of Doubt, Controversies and Criticisms. Even though Blackwater helped make Kosovo safer, not everyone liked them. Using private military companies raises questions about who they answer to, how open they are, and if they might abuse their power. Blackwater especially was criticized for using too much force and not being open about what it was doing. They were very secretive, and their heavily armed guards made people worry about whether anyone was watching them, and if they were respecting human rights. The arguments about Blackwater got worse after some incidents in Iraq, where the company was involved in shootings that killed civilians. These incidents, which were all over the news, made people question if it was right to use private companies for security, and if there were good ways to hold them responsible for their actions. The controversy around Blackwater in Iraq affected how people saw their work in Kosovo, and many people wanted them to be watched more closely, and thought the whole idea of private military companies should be re-examined. Section 5. The Privatization of Peacekeeping. Lessons from Kosovo. What happened with Blackwater in Kosovo shows how security is becoming more private in the 21st century. Using more and more private military companies in war zones makes us ask big questions about war, the role of government, and if it's okay to pay others to do the fighting. While private security companies can be helpful in tough situations, they also create problems for international law, human rights, and whether peacekeeping missions are legitimate. There aren't clear international rules about what these companies can do, and it's hard to hold them responsible because they aren't part of regular armies. This makes it hard for peacekeeping to be legitimate and work well. Blackwater's time in Kosovo shows that we need more transparency, accountability, and rules for private security companies. The world needs to create strong ways to make sure these companies follow international law, respect human rights, and are punished if they do anything wrong. We also need a better way to rebuild after wars, a way that focuses on building local police forces and fixing the problems that caused the war in the first place. This will mean we depend less on private security companies and can build a lasting peace. What happened with Blackwater and Kosovo reminds us of how complicated and difficult it is to use private security. As the world deals with new threats and how war is changing, we need to think carefully about using private military companies and create clear rules and ethical guidelines for them. If we want peace and stability in a complicated world, we need to be committed to transparency, accountability, and the rule of law. These are the principles that must guide how we work with the private security industry.